Good day, everyone. Welcome to our science class. I am Girlie T. Manalansan, your science teacher. For today's lesson, we will be discussing protein synthesis. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to describe the structure of DNA and RNA, identify the functions of DNA and RNA, compare and contrast DNA and RNA in terms of structure, function, and location. Name the different kinds of amino acids, and finally, explain how protein is made using information from DNA. Let's get started! You learned in grade 9 that many genes in plants and animals behave differently than the genes that Gregor Mendel studied in peas, where traits are not entirely controlled by dominant and recessive genes. You also learned how the genes in your DNA influence your characteristics. Now, do you want to learn something new today? I'm glad to see Anna excited for today's lesson. I'm gonna help you learn about protein synthesis. This is divided into two lessons. Lesson number 1, structure and function of DNA and RNA. Let us talk about nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are important macromolecule in the cell. It is significant because of their role in their transmission, storage, and expression of genetic information. The two major types of nucleic acids are the DNA and RNA. Let us study the function of deoxyribonucleic acid, or in short, the DNA. It is called the blueprint of life. We all know that building a house usually requires a blueprint, o kaya floor plan ng bahay para malaman mo kung anong kalalabasan nito pagkatapos magawa. Organisms have blueprints which contains information that will determine their physical and chemical characteristics, and this blueprint is the DNA. Halimbawa, ito ang nagdidictate kung ano ang magiging kulay ng mata, kulay ng buhok, blood type, gaano katangos ang iyong ilong, or how much tall you are, at marami pang iba. All things that happens in your entire body is directed by the DNA, primarily for the storage of genetic information. It contains instructions needed for an organism to grow, develop, survive, and reproduce. At kung paano at kailan gagawa ng proteins. It passed from one cell generation to the next. Parents pass on traits or characteristics to their child. Function of ribonucleic acid, or RNA. It converts information stored in DNA to form protein. Can you imagine a car being assembled in a car factory? By way of analogy, different cars are being built in many simple steps. Engineers tell workers how to make cars, and the workers follow directions to build the cars. Suppliers bring parts to the factory so they can be installed in the car. Ang paggawa ng protein sa ating cell ay katulad din ng paggawa ng sasakyan. 3 types of ribonucleic acid. Number 1, messenger RNA, or mRNA. It brings information from the DNA in the nucleus to the protein manufacturing area, the cytoplasm. Ito ang nagdadala ng impormasyon galing sa DNA papunta sa cytoplasm. In cytoplasm, The mRNA becomes a template of information to make proteins. Number 2. Ribosomal RNA or rRNA. Hold tightly into the mRNA using its information to assemble the amino acids in correct order. Dito ina-assemble ang tamang amino acids para makabuo ng protein. The third type of RNA is the transfer RNA or tRNA. It supplies amino acids to the ribosome to be assembled as protein. Let us get to know the DNA and RNA structure. As you can see in the figure, meron tayong DNA at RNA. DNA is a double helix like a twisted staircase. Dalawa ang kanyang strand. RNA is single-stranded. Ang DNA ay merong ladder. Sa bawat steps niyan, meron tinatawag na base pair or nitrogenous base pair. At iyan ay pinagdidikit-dikit ng hydrogen bonds. At iyan ang structure ng DNA at RNA. Composition of DNA and RNA. As you can see in the figure, we have the nucleotide. Ito ang nucleotide ng RNA at ito naman ay sa DNA. Nucleotide comprises of sugar, phosphate group, and nitrogenous base. Ang tawag sa sugar ng RNA ay ribose. Para naman sa DNA, we have deoxyribose. Ang sugar at phosphate ang nagsisilbing backbone ng RNA at ng DNA. Ito ang composition ng DNA and RNA. Do not forget the base pairing of DNA and RNA. There are two kinds of nitrogenous bases, the purines and pyrimidines. Kung mapapansin ninyo, sa DNA bases at RNA bases, ang purines ay binubuo ng dalawang ring, while ang pyrimidines ay isa lamang. Purines includes adenine or A and guanine or G. Same with RNA. We have adenine or A, guanine or G. Ang pyrimidines naman ay binubuo ng thymine or T and cytosine or C, and that is for the DNA bases. The only difference is that for RNA bases, instead of thymine, it is replaced by uracil or U and cytosine or C. Purines and pyrimidines always pairs. Same with RNA bases. Always remember that adenine pairs with thymine while guanine pairs with cytosine. In RNA bases, adenine pairs with uracil while guanine pairs with cytosine. Location in the cell. DNA is located inside the nucleus, while the RNA is found in the cytoplasm. Learners, join me in completing the table. We have here the basis of comparison and then the column for the DNA and RNA. Let us start. Number 1. Number of strands. For DNA, we have 2, while 1 for RNA. Correct. Number 2, location in the cell. DNA is located inside the nucleus, while RNA is in the cytoplasm. That's right. Number 3, type of sugar. For DNA, we have deoxyribose, ribose for RNA. That's nice. And finally, we have nitrogenous base pair. Adenine pairs with thymine, cytosine pairs with guanine. That is for the DNA. For RNA, we have adenine pairs with uracil and cytosine pairs with guanine. Very good, learners. We will now proceed to lesson 2, protein synthesis. Proteins are large complex molecules that are essential for normal functioning in the cell. May proteins na nakukuha natin sa mga pagkain at proteins na nililikha ng ating cell. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So, bago naging protein, amino acid muna. Genetic code table. Since RNA is responsible in making protein, nitrogenous base of RNA is important in this table. So we have here table number 1, amino acid chart. First letter, ito ay binubuo ng adenine, uracil, cytosine, and guanine. Same with the second letter. We have A, U, C, and G. While sa third letter natin, kada row niya, meron tayong A, U, C, G. Let us take a look at the first codon. Ito ay tinatawag natin na codon. So, galing siya sa first letter, sa second letter, at sa third letter. At ang codon ay may specific na amino acid. So, our first letter is A. That's why we have here A. Second letter natin ay A. And then the third letter natin ay under siya dito sa row na ito. So, A. So, we have the codon AAA. And then the amino acid is the lysine. Another. So, let us try this one. So, first letter niya is A. And then, second letter niya is C. This one, AC. And then, yung third letter niya ay C. So, every time na makita ka ng codon na ACC, the corresponding amino acid is threonine. So, that is genetic code table. Oh, don't cry, Anna. Everything will be fine. Aww. You don't have to memorize all of that. Of the 20 amino acids found in human protein, only 11 can be synthesized by the body and 9 have to be supplied by the foods we eat. These 9 amino acids are also called essential amino acids. Adults only needs to obtain 8 of them, and these are valine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and histidine is only essential for infants. So, ibig sabihin, ang mga amino acid na ito ay makukuha natin sa ating mga kinakain. Conditional amino acids and non-essential amino acid is synthesized by our body. Yan ang nililikha ng ating cell. I'm glad to see Anna happy again. Let us have the protein synthesis. It is the process of making proteins which involves transcription and translation. Ito ang proseso kung saan nakagagawa ang ating cell ng protein sa dalawang pamamaraan, ang transcription at translation. Figure 3 depicts central dogma. It explains the flow of genetic information from DNA to RNA to make a protein. Let us talk about DNA replication, transcription, and translation. DNA replication is the process of producing two identical replicas of DNA from one original DNA molecule. Transcription is the process by which the information in a strand of DNA is copied into a new molecule of messenger RNA or mRNA. Translation is the process which determines the order of bases in mRNA of amino acids into a protein. It occurs in a ribosome in the cytoplasm. We all know that cell is the basic unit of all living tissue. We will talk about the protein synthesis in eukaryotes. Examples of eukaryotes are plants, moles, fruit flies, and definitely us. It includes all the organisms other than eubacteria and archaebacteria. There is a structure called the nucleus. There you have the DNA. Within the DNA are sections called genes. Ang genes ang nagtataglay ng instruction sa paggawa ng protein. When the gene is switched on and RNA polymerase attaches to the gene, it moves along the DNA, making a strand of messenger RNA. So, paano nagkakaroon ng messenger RNA? Dahil yan sa mga free nitrogenous bases na suspended dito sa nucleus. It automatically attaches to the unwind DNA. So, kapag kompleto na yung information at nakabuo na ng template, ito na yung tinatawag natin na messenger RNA. Tandaan na ang transcription ay nangyayari sa nucleus. Once the RNA moves out from the nucleus, it will go to the cytoplasm, which is the protein factory na tinatawag natin na ribosome. So, ito na yung tinatawag natin na messenger RNA. So, this is the information came from the DNA. So, there you have the nitrogenous bases of the RNA. Dito sa cytoplasm, nangyayari ang translation. So, once the messenger RNA attaches to the ribosomal RNA reads the right code to make a protein. Si transfer RNA is automatically attached to the ribosome. Say for instance, ang template na nakalagay sa ating messenger RNA or ang information na nakalagay sa ating messenger RNA ay GAA. So, guanine always pairs with cytosine. Adenine pairs with uracil. Adenine again pairs with uracil. The chain of amino acid keeps on growing until a stop codon is reached. So, hanggang sa matapos niya ang messenger RNA. So, it will fold and it will become the protein. that our body needs. That ends our topic, learners. I hope you learned a lot. Enjoy learning because science matters. Good day.